Well, she was born and raised in Pleasant Ridge in near Lomont, and always lived on a farm, and so she appreciated the life of farm women. But she also worked for the right for women to vote, so she spoke across Kansas and across the United States about women. She also was a well received speaker about farm life and agriculture. She was also on the board of directors of the Kansas State Historical Society. So I was really impressed with the work that she had done. Well, I think back on what she said to one of the agricultural presentations that she made, and she talked about how happy she was to be there for several reasons. One was because she was a woman, and being as such, she liked to talk. And the second one was because she was raised on a farm, and that's what she had loved all through her life, and understood how things were for women on the farm. I like the main floor, and the stone work. The stone work's incredible. And they've just done a fabulous job to make it not like it was, but um, so that it's livable today as well. It's always exciting to have done some research and then be able to have somebody to walk in out of the blue and they're interested in the same thing. And so we hit it off right away and have become good friends, I believe. And I like to, they have done an absolutely fabulous job. I've never seen anything done so well. And they just, you can see the love that they've put into everything that they've done here. Not only brought it back to life, but they take care of it once they've gone through all this work. Well, the Porters came to the Leavenworth County Historical Society in Leavenworth at the Carroll Mansion Museum to do research on Cora Wellhouse Bullard. And we have been collecting information on Leavenworth County for over 60 years. And I had written about and researched about Cora and her father, Fred Wellhouse. So we had a lot of information, and we had photographs of Cora in our 30,000 glass plate negative collection that they were really interested in. I'd also written a book about Lomont, which is close to the area where Cora was born in Pleasant Ridge in northwestern Leavenworth County. Mary Ann Brown. So I'm born and raised in Leavenworth County. I studied at KU and was a pharmacist for most of my life. And in my retirement, I wanted to do something with museums. So that's how I got interested in Leavenworth County history. I actually wrote a book about Lomont, which is where I grew up. And it's in the northwestern corner of the state. And the more people I talked to, the more they wanted me to write a book. And so I did extensive research about 10 years ago. Then I got interested in different women of Leavenworth County and found all these wonderful photographs in our glass plate negative collection at the museum. And so I started researching these women and found all about Cora Bullard, who she was quite a mover and shaker in her time. I keep finding more connections to this house from the Historical Society. We've driven by here so many times when we would go to Lawrence, and to see the work progress and then finally get to come here and see the results. It's really neat. And especially on a nice day where they're serving apple pie. At the museum, we work with other historical societies and museums because there's a lot of history that passed through this county. This is where Leavenworth, the first city of Kansas, was, and there's just a lot of history. We partnered with the Susan B. Anthony Birthplace Museum in Adams, Massachusetts, because Susan B. Anthony's brother was the editor of the Leavenworth Times in Kansas, and she visited often. So we find connections all the time. And so now at the museum, we are starting a campaign to build an extension to the museum. It's going to be a research center of early Kansas history. There's so much more to do. Just watching the progress and to be able then to hear some of their stories and things, interesting artifacts that they've found, is just the work that's gone into it to save history. I wish more people could do this. It takes a lot to do this sort of a project, because what was it, a decade that they have been working on this. So we need more people like that. I'm Mary Ann Brown. I'm representing the Leavenworth County Historical Society. I have studied the Wellhouse and Bullard families in history in Leavenworth County. So the more you know about where you live, the more you feel at home. Of course, it's always been my home. So that's how I tried to stay away from the history, but it draws you in because people don't realize how much history is here. When you talk about like Leavenworth, it's the prison jokes, but it's just an incredible amount of history. And we just acquired 200 stereo negatives, glass plate negatives, that show street scenes of Leavenworth from the 1860s and 1870s. And the detail is incredible on these glass negatives, so much so that you can scan these images and then zero in on just one part and see the name on a building, what's inside the building through the window. And so it's just so much fun to go digging for the history. My farm is near the military road, and my husband was digging to plant a tree once, and we found a brass spur, and I took it to Fort Leavenworth, and they said it was pre-Civil War, so it had to have been from the dragoons that were here. And it's just, Olga is, she said, now I want everyone to take their shoes off because I'm from Germany and everything has to be really clean. And it's really neat to see that I live on my family's old farm, and we tend to find things that were left many years ago.